All right, finna go to get started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode 137. For today's topic, we're going to be discussing a topic that I think I probably should have mentioned a while ago because it is something that is so prevalent to today's society, more importantly. So today's topic is going to be temptation and desire, or desire and temptation. They go hand in hand, unfortunately, but we'll go ahead and discuss that for today. A few things I want to mention before I go ahead and get it started. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok, just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok. Also, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube shorts, as well as make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube clips as well. If you can't catch a full podcast but still want to get the game that I be spitting, I need you to go ahead and check that out for sure, for sure. And other than that, give me 1 second. All right, we're gonna go get it started, man. So, like I said, today's topic: temptation and desire. So, I'm gonna go over the definition of both of these things, and then I'll get into the main meat for today's message. A few things I want to mention. Shout out to KJ. Appreciate for stopping by. If you are in the chat or if you're watching this live, make sure to go ahead and leave it in the chat. Also, if there's any specific things that you want me to cover on today's topic, make sure to go ahead and leave it in the comments for sure because I'll be checking that. And also, if you're watching on Twitch, make sure to go ahead and let me know because I'll be checking the chat as well. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and get it started. So, like I said, today's topic, desire and temptation. So, to define both of these things, first, desire. Desire is a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. And the definition of temptation is the desire to do something, especially something wrong and unwise. And that is going to be today's podcast, fellas. That is going to be today's podcast. And there's going to be many different avenues that I can go about this, but I'm going to go about it one way. Like I said, if there's anything that's semi-relating to this specific topic that you think is prevalent to bring up in the conversation, I want you to go ahead and leave it in the comments for sure. So I want to start with this. It is one of the most powerful things that does exist. Temptation and desire are two of the most powerful things that does exist. These are going to be some of the biggest controlling factors of society and of how the human mind actually works, right? So that's something I truly want to emphasize because I feel like it doesn't get enough emphasis. Um, but yes, the desire to do anything obviously is going to extend beyond what I'm going to be talking about on today's podcast. And temptation in itself is going to be one of the most ravaging emotions that a human being could ever feel. Like I said, the temptation, and especially with something that is wrong and unwise, is going to be a lot of temptation that you will face in this world. It doesn't matter what position that you're in this life, you're just going to have to go through that eventually. And quite frankly, there's really no avoiding it. And if you're a person that is a person who's avoided it their entire life truly and didn't even think about it once, until today's podcast, I want you to go and let me know. But I doubt there's going to be anybody like that. But yeah, let's get into it, man. The emotion and feeling of desire is one, like I said, one of the most powerful things, and you mix it in with temptation, and then it becomes something that is it is even more disastrous than just one or the other by itself. Um, but one thing I want to mention with this is it's always going to test your character as long as you live. If you even get to a point where you can control temptation and desire, just know that you'll be faced with it once again. And this will be an ongoing test of your character, like I said, as long as you live. This is something through my own personal experience. I have been fortunate enough to have had plenty of experiences where I avoided myself of these things. And just like with anything, obviously, like I said, these are going to be one of the most strongest things. And like I said, will forever test your character. So therefore, these are going to be battles that you will face and you will occasionally come across. And this is something that I've seen from my personal self. And like I said, I'm sure you watching this, whether you went through a phase of getting over temptation and desire, or whether you haven't. Um, I'm sure you could go ahead and say that it is going to be a test of character for sure that you will experience pretty much for the rest of your life, or at least for this for a very good amount of time. I'll say that for sure. One thing I want to mention with this, and I feel like I said, just I don't see enough people talking about this. It's so underlyingly prevalent in today's society, and like I said, I just don't see enough people talking about it. Um, but but it's not a matter of it happening or of it being prevalent within society. It's more importantly how you're able to handle it. How do you think about when it comes into your mind? How do you think about it? How do you process that emotion? How do you process that feeling? How do you process those thoughts? Those are going to be probably some of the biggest um, biggest indicators on how your character truly is, right? Because like I said, you're going to face these things in many different aspects of life, but how you go about them, how you think about them, how you remind yourself of how to move with this distraction, truly distraction, is going to say a lot more about your character than pretty much most things will. If you're a man, unfortunately, that is a victim of temptation and desire um, in any occasion that brings about the potential of temptation or desire, you fold every single time. You're going to live a very, very rough existence. And also, if you're a person who's been able to deny temptation and desire, nonetheless, do you live a better existence? Yes, but do you still live a very, very tough existence? Yes, you do for sure. And like I said, I just don't see enough people talking about this because this is something that everybody has to go through. Men, women. I'm going to be referring a little bit more to the man aspect, but I do believe that everybody's going to go through this. But how you go about it, and I feel like part of the reason and part of the way you go about it is by having the conversation, right? By having the conversations maybe most people are not willing to have. Maybe even the conversations that most people are not even comfortable having, which is why welcome to the Life of a Champ podcast. One thing I want to say before I get a little bit deeper into the topic: shout out to Sarah. Happy birthday! Appreciate you and for all that you've done with helping me think. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Um, but yeah, getting into it. Everybody's a victim. Let's keep it 1,000, right? If you're a man watching this, you're a victim. If you're a woman watching this, you're a victim. Um, and like I had mentioned, unfortunately, most people watching this probably will not conquer this beast. This will probably be something that's prevalent within your life, and you'll be nothing more than a victim of this. But hopefully, if you're watching this and you recognize this and you watch this maybe at an early enough age, you can conquer this beast. But for the most part, most people are not. If we're going to keep it 1,000, most people are just not able to conquer this beast. Um, and at the very least, if you conquer it once, at least you know what it takes to conquer the beast of temptation, lust, and desire, temptation, lust. These are going to be all interchangeable throughout this specific podcast. But like I said, if you're in here and you're watching, make sure to go ahead and leave a comment. If there's anything even slightly off topic, but still kind of remaining within the elements of temptation, desire, or lust, I want you to go ahead and leave it in the comments because that is going to be today's topic for sure. Um, and one thing I want to mention with this as well is I'm a person who has put in a lot of time and energy into thinking about these things and also processing this emotion. Emma, appreciate you for stopping by. Um, but yeah, I'm not gonna say in any capacity that I am perfect. I'm also a person that has to go through these things. But what I will say though is I've been able to do things that not a lot of men can truly say that they've been able to do. So I'll get into those right now in a second. And these are going to be things that I'm going to recommend for everybody to go ahead and do at least some point in their life because I do believe it to be beneficial in many different aspects. And of course, it's going to be handling the beast of lust, the beast of temptation, the beast of desire, which truly needs to be assessed and processed thoroughly because most people they don't think about it. I won't say they don't think about it. They don't process it. They're just a victim. They just think about it and it controls and dictates their life. And if you're a person watching this that is better and can think logically, hopefully you're going to be able to reframe your mind on this because, um, like I said, unfortunately most people are just not able to handle this. Um, but yeah, let me read you some comments real quick. Facts. I would rather get things off my chest to a wise person who has dealt with the same thing I have to help me go through the temptation I have, so that I can help them out with theirs. We got to use the things that make us exactly. Emma, you're exactly right. KJ, you're exactly right. Good stuff from y'all. But yeah, you're exactly right. You got to use all that you can. So I'm gonna get into the elements that have made me qualified, in my opinion, qualified to talk about these certain things. So one thing that I've been able to do that I haven't seen many people do, especially men. I maybe you could point out a woman that has done this, but I haven't talked to any man usually that has been able to do this. And this is going to be entering phases of life of voluntarily being celibate, right? Voluntary celibacy is going to be one of the rarest things that exists that a man chooses to do. Because I'm going to explain it to you. Usually, there's going to be three different categories that a person can exist within, right? And these three things are you either don't have any sexual relations, right? These are what we call incels, right? That is just what it is. They have a hard time. Um, they have a hard time managing, or they have a hard time being able to court somebody and obviously have some type of physical relations, right? And then you have the people that just that just indulge within that, right? I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but then you have this rare group in the middle, which is something that, like I said, most people are not able to do, and specifically, most men are not able to do or even conceptualize or even think about truly, right? This is going to be the people who are voluntarily celibate, that truly can indulge within one, but choose not to because they understand the benefits that may come from this specific experience. And I had went celibate for about 7 months last year, and that was probably one of the most introspective moments of my entire life. I've taken so many things when it comes to conquering the beast of lust, and also controlling temptation and desire, and also limiting these things, because I do believe people have this victim mindset when it comes to when they think about these certain things. But you must be able to realize that you can control these things. You must take control and take accountability of your life and realize that you can control these things. And I'm a person who's a walking example of a person who's time and time again have been able to control these things. And like I said, I don't see a lot of men will either talk about this or have able to do this and do it for a sustainable amount of time. That's truly realistic. And another thing I want to add into this as well, which was an element of this 7th month period, which makes it even more difficult to do because truly you can enter voluntary celibacy. I keep messing that up, but a lot of what people do, they self pleasure, right? Like I said, we're very very open. We're very very open in this on this podcast. Um, but to defeat the beast of lust and go celibate and also not self pleasure is a different experience. It takes a different level of self discipline. It takes a different level of control. It takes a different level of true introspection, and I feel like most people are not able to do that. I was able to endure this for the majority of last year, and it is something that I've been thinking about as a conscious thought for years, but I've actually played it out. And with that being said, I haven't in over a year, so that's gonna be one of the, like I said, one of the craziest things that you could possibly hear come out of a man's mouth nowadays. Because quite frankly, um, you got little monkeys running around going crazy, right? That's all I have to say about that. Because that is what it is, man. That is what it is. But like I said, it you have to analyze the person that you want to be and what it takes to become that person, right? I want to be a person who's going to be self-disciplined and controlled, and the only way to do that is by doing things that's going to tempt me to doing things that or avoiding things that can tempt me, and avoiding things that will that I have a natural inclination to desire. And like I said, most people are just not able to do this, right? So I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm also speaking from the observations of many people around me, but I do believe that this is an essential part of self improvement, especially as a man. And even though it may seem silly, right? It may seem silly to some when I say don't self pleasure, right? Um, but the reason I think it's silly to just be a victim of this. And like I said, most men that you will meet in your life are a victim of this, whether they'll admit it or not. The reason I can talk about it is because I'm not, right? And yeah, they're victims, and some are helpless, man. Some can't even conceptualize doing anything that I've done, that I've just mentioned within the last 5 minutes. They can't even begin to fathom the idea of them enduring so much temptation and so much lust and so much desire. And like I said, it's this shit is not made for the weak, fellas. I'll tell you that. It's not for the weak. And if you're a person that truly wants to test your self control, right? This is going to be a perfect route for you. It's something that, like I said, is an essential part of self improvement that you cannot deny. And there's also many different benefits. I can get into that if you guys would like, but there's going to be many different benefits that can come from that experience, mentally, physically, spiritually. There's going to be so many benefits. Like, I can't even name them all on this podcast, but I just want to point that out because, like I said, it's not something that is common. It's not something that you see every single day for sure. With that being said, give me 1 second. All right, I want to mention this. I want to mention this as well. And I feel like I don't know how I feel about this. Let's talk about it, man. So unfortunately, this is going to be something that men more prevalently have to deal with because their desires they're physically made to have this specific desire, right? And if I could get rid of it in 1 second, if I can get rid of it within myself, if I can get rid of it within the male species, I would get rid of it in a second. And unfortunately, it is an undeniable factor of life, and especially life for men. And I truly wish that more people were understanding of this, and instead of just like shaming this, and not to say that I'm not shaming it, I'm shaming it to an extent, but I wish more people were truly understanding of this um of this temptation, of this desire, man. I wish more people were accepting of this instead of so like combative towards this idea. And I just see it time and time again where people, and more importantly, society will shame men for feeling the ways that they do instead of, empathizing like they do with women, right? I feel like if women have a struggle, the society is able to, properly handle that and empathize with that. But if a man says something along the lines of any of the things that I mentioned in the last, let's just say, 10 minutes, he's looked at as a creep. He's looked at as a person who can't control himself. He's looked down upon instead of people trying to empathize with that struggle, because truly it is a struggle and it is something that is prevalent within all men, right? Like I said, you can try to deny it if you would like, and even some of the most holy men that ever exist have to fight off these desires, right? It is just a way of life, and like I said, I just wish more people were understanding of this instead of just trying to bring people down when truly they're going through it themselves and maybe they don't even understand it, right? I'm a person who has a little bit of a higher understanding than most people when it comes to this specific topic, which is why I'm talking about it. But there's going to be a lot of people who are going through this that truly do not know how to verbalize this, who truly are just going to be going through it, and no one's going to be helping them go through it, right? They're going to have to go through it themselves. I was a person that had to go through it myself, and like I said, it takes a lot of introspection to get on the other side, but it is definitely going to be one of the most beneficial things, I think, to help your mind, to help your physical, and um, to help anything. Like I said, getting rid of any lustful desires, getting rid of any temptation in any capacity of life, getting rid of useless desires. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things that are worth desiring in this life, but there's also going to be a lot of things that give you this illusion of necessary desire. But and those things obviously they need to be mentioned as well. Um, and I'm gonna kind of mention this point because I just think it's so prevalent too. The only way to truly combat this is to understand that it is a lifelong battle, right? Submitting to that idea in itself is definitely a little bit more comforting than just either being on one side and denying it, and then also if you're a victim of this, just like most people will be, then you obviously shunning it in your own mind. I feel like if you just accept that this is going to be something that you know will come up, then you're going to be able to handle it a little bit better instead of just, like I said, demonizing it every single time every time it comes up. If you just accept it for what it is and obviously move with corrective action, that is obviously going to be within your best interest, and that's obviously going to be the best route for you. But hopefully you will have more wins than losses when it comes to this, right? There's going to be um, plenty of moments of vulnerability and weakness that people will unfortunately fall into. But hopefully, with me now discussing these certain things and giving you this new paradigm, hopefully you're going to be in a position where you truly have more wins than losses. And of course, the losses will inevitably come. How you go about the loss says a lot more about your character than even how you go through wins. So, um, like I said, it's going to take a lot of self discipline. It's going to take a lot of control. But in this life, it is a necessary evil, and it eventually build the character that you will need to go ahead and be in order to get through hardships in life. So, I feel like that's what it's ultimately going to come down to. And like I said, I want to know your guys' takes on this. If you're a person that is going through this, I want you to go ahead and let me know. If you're a person that has conquered this, I want you to go ahead and let me know as well. Also, if you're watching this, I want you to go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you have any questions, if you have any um, any thoughts that you really want to air out, that you kind of want to get my opinion on, I want you to go ahead and let me know in the comments as well. But I want this to be a very, very open discussion for sure. By choice, that's great. It has made me so much stronger and independent. I'm glad that that has helped you the way that it did, Emma. I appreciate your contribution. But yeah, like I said, she's a living. Her and I are definitely a living testimony of of people who have went through this and who have been able to speak about it. Because quite frankly, it's something that, like I said, takes a lot of. I keep repeating this. It takes a lot of self control to rid yourself of, I wouldn't say rid yourself of these, to avoid yourself of these for a temporary amount of time. Um, but yeah, I would say, like I said, it is going to be one of life's necessary evils to go through. And if you're a person that is just submitting to life and just accepting it for what it is, and truly is accepting the being a victim of this, you can live life like that if you would like, but that is not going to be personally how I live life. I live life understanding that these are going to be ongoing battles that I will have for an extended period of time. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I just know that I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle, and just like everybody else, I'm going to have to endure the struggle. I'm going to have to go through the fire. I'm going to have to develop my self discipline, and that's just what it is, right? This is something that, as of right now, me speaking on this, I can speak as strongly as I possibly can because I am a person who is controlled right now, right? How long it'll last, I don't know, but um, that is something that I want you to take for yourself. Analyze your own life, right? Think about your own life. How are you handling these things? Are you a conscious observer of your mind when you come across these certain things, or if you're are you a person that just lets it happen, right? There's gonna be a lot of different types of people that come into this, but hopefully at the end of the day, ultimately what I'm trying to say is this: if you're watching this, you know right from wrong, and hopefully I've been expressing the right to you. And if you choose to make a decision that is indeed wrong, hopefully, just like with anything that you do wrong, hopefully you feel guilty, right? That is ultimately what it's going to come down to, and that is ultimately the thing that I personally had to submit to when it came to this idea. When I was first introduced to this idea, this was going to be something that I knew, um, if I did do whatever it was that I did do, right? I'm gonna feel guilty for doing it because I know right from wrong, and I'm able to differentiate right from wrong. And if I'm choosing the wrong, I'm gonna feel guilty for doing it. And if you're a person that is truly healthy, if you do something wrong, if you know you should be doing something better, if you know that there's a better move on the chessboard, well, hopefully you feel guilty, man. And I say that in the best way possible. Obviously, it's not good to feel guilty, but it's also not good to choose the wrong decision. So you got to go ahead and decide for your own life, right? What do you feel? What do you feel is the best route for you to go for sure. But uh, yeah, that is pretty much what I have to say for today's podcast. So, like I said, I want to get your guys' contribution and input on these specific topics. I have a few more things that I definitely want to mention, but like I said, I want you guys to go ahead and contribute. I remember when I had a very bad addiction, and the way I handled the disciplinary action was breaking my phone and not using it for a month. Then once I got a new phone, I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I appreciate you for being open, KJ. It is truly an addiction, right? That is something that most people don't take into account. That it is indeed a an addiction that most people unfortunately have. And the only way to get over that problem is by talking about it. If you never talk about it, if you're suffering in silence, then you'll do just that. You will suffer in silence. You will not overcome this. You will not. I'm not gonna say you will not get any better, but it's gonna be 10 times more difficult to overcome any problem that you have without talking about it to somebody else, right? This is why I wanted to make this podcast in the first place, is to talk about these certain things, because I do believe that there's utility in having these conversations, because you're able to sort yourself out through conversations, right? And that is why I made this podcast in the first place, man. I love to have some good conversations. I want to be more introspective. I'm always searching for betterment in myself and my abilities, and one way of doing that is by having these open discussions, for sure. So, like I said, if you have any if you're watching this, like I said, contribute to the podcast. Let me know your take on some of the things that I mentioned on today's podcast, for sure. I want to mention this as well. I want to mention this as well. If you're a person that is struggling with this, I want you. I'm gonna mention this point to you, and this is something that I wish I had when I first started going through this experience of getting over temptation, desire, and lust. This is one thing that I really wish I heard. Give me 1 second. It is this right here. An idle mind is the devil's playground. This is going to be something that you probably heard of. I'm sure you've heard this quote if you're watching this. If you haven't, it's a good quote, and if you have, then then that is what it is, right? But I want to kind of get into that a little bit deeper, right? I'm gonna repeat it one more time. An idle mind is the devil's playground. With anything and everything, if you remove it, if you remove an element of your life, a habit of your life, a tendency that you had, a temptation or a desire that you had, if you remove it, you must replace it with something healthy, right? And you must consciously do that, because if you void yourself from consciously doing that, let's just say you do remove it. If you do remove it, good for you. But if you don't consciously replace it, it's unconsciously going to be replaced by something else. And who knows what that something else could be? Maybe it's something even more unhealthy. You never know. Or maybe your lack of conscious replacement leads you back to having that same problem again, right? And that is ultimately what you want to go ahead and avoid. And of course, like I had mentioned, everyone's going to have their relapses. Everyone's going to have their moments of vulnerability. Everybody's going to have their moments of weakness, and that is what it is. But if you want to avoid yourself, the most that you possibly can from these specific hardships, um, like I said, consciously replacing it. If you remove something, replace it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in any capacity that we're talking about, whether it's habits, whether it's anything, identities, whatever. If you want to remove something from your life, you must consciously, positively replace it. That is something that I truly believe. Like I said, if you're a person that is doing whatever habit right now and you don't want to be doing it anymore, the best way to do it, the best way to go ahead and handle that is to remove it and replace it. It's as simple as that, man. It's as simple as that. And anyone who is going through something, talk to someone or watch David Goggins yell at you for 30 minutes straight. KJ, hey, that man's onto something, man. But he's exactly right, and that I want to mention that thought. I want to mention that thought. I had that thought earlier, with like people that go through therapy and things like that. I'm a person who doesn't need therapy, because if I have a problem, I actually talk about it with people that I trust and people that I know who truly have my best intentions in mind, right? If you're a person watching this and you don't have anybody like that, or if you don't have a lot of people like that, then maybe you need to go to a therapist. But I feel like if anybody has any problems in life, if you're going through anything, you're going to need to discuss it through conversation. You're going to need to constantly talk about it, get different points of view, and then come to your own conclusion. That's the only way you're going to handle any problem in your life, is if you talk about it. If you have a problem, there's going to be some problems that you truly can deal with it by yourself, of course. But a lot of the problems, if you want a quicker solution to the problem, talking about it with people you truly are comfortable, that you're truly comfortable with, and you truly feel like you can be transparent with, more importantly, that's going to be ideal for sure. And I'm thankful enough to say that I have plenty of people in my life that that have allowed me to do this for sure. And unfortunately, or fortunately, like I said, if you have somebody like that, if you understand that you're trying to figure this out, just say it straight out. I have a problem. I need somebody to help me out through this problem, and I feel like you can help me out, right? Instead of just like trauma dumping on somebody, right? That's obviously not going to be as ideal, whether that's either for you or for the person that's watching that, or hearing it. It's probably not going to be ideal. So if you're a person that is going through something like that, if you have any issue in life and you need help, seek it through the people that truly care about you. Seek it through the people you're truly comfortable with, and that's going to be the best thing that you possibly can do for your own life. Give me 1 second. I was okay. It's almost addictive in a way. One day I woke up and made the choose to more. Yes, Emily, very, very good. I appreciate your transparency, and I appreciate I also really admire your progress that you've made. That is definitely admirable for sure. Sometimes you have to control and make the choice to better your life instead of continuing to enable people in your life who aren't emotionally serving you. That is exactly true. She's exactly spot on with that for sure, for sure. Um, mm, d- yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. getting into it, I want to make my final point. Like I said, I want you guys to go ahead and contribute if you are watching this, whether you're watching this or watching this live. I want your contribution. I'm gonna mention this point because I do believe it to be prevalent. Unfortunately, society is not set up for you to succeed. If anything, it wants to see you crumble in as many possible moments that you possibly can. And with temptation, with lust, with desire, all of these things are going to be extra triggered through the societal programming that does exist for us to consume, right? The reason why I wanted to make this podcast is to stray away from these um, unhealthy ways of being, unhealthy ways of consuming content, unhealthy ways of input, right? And I do believe that, unfortunately, like I said, society is really going to try to take advantage of you. It's going to try to manipulate your emotions. It's going to try to manipulate your natural tendencies of temptation, desire, and lust. It's going to manipulate these in many different aspects. So, with that being said, you must be a conscious observer of societal traps, and you must avoid them to your best ability. Unfortunately, I don't see enough people who are conscious observers of society and people who truly are able to avoid the traps, because there's going to be a lot of traps that do exist, right? How you go about those traps says a lot more about your character. If you're a person that is just a victim of these and you accept it, that says a lot about your character. If you're a person that truly is going to be an observer of the life that you want to live, an observer of the people around you and the society around you, and you recognize the unhealthy tendencies and the lacking aspects of society, then hopefully you go ahead and make the decision that's going to be best for your life. And if you don't, like I said, hopefully you feel guilty, man. And I'm gonna be one of the only people that you probably ever heard say that, where I encourage you to feel guilty, because quite frankly, if you're feeling guilty, at least something's mentally right. And if something's mentally right, hopefully you get to a point where you avoid that, man. That's pretty much what I have to say for that. Yeah, and I will say this. I will say this as well, right? Society is gonna try to drag you down. Now, what you do with that given information is either going to lift you up or drag you back down. But at the very least, you know what you're doing and you're a conscious observer of it at the end of the day. That's all you can do. And it is as simple as that. You have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's exactly right. Jaden is exactly right. Uh, that is something that, unfortunately, there's not a lot of people who are like that, who are truly want to endure uh, that level of being uncomfortable, because it's so much easier to be comfortable. It's so much easier to fall into temptation, and to fall into lust, fall into desire. It's so easy to fall into all of these things. Um, but like I said, if you want to choose a path that many are not built for, being a person who's disciplined in all these aspects, being a person who can control themselves in all these aspects is going to be an admirable quality. And something, like I said, most people are going to truly find admiration in. If you're a person that's able to abide by these things, if you're a person that is able to control themselves, people look up to people like that for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say for today's podcast. I feel like this was long overdue. I do believe that it was an essential part of my own personal self development, and something that I said that I will say and continue to say is an essential part of self improvement in general. Um, there's going to be a lot of different elements of the human psyche that needs to be analyzed, truly analyzed by you instead of you being a victim of it. And the more you are capable of recognizing these things and then therefore taking action based off of your observations, it's going to lead you in a much better place. That's what it's going to come down to. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say for today's podcast. Like I said, if you enjoyed today's podcast, let me know. I know it was a little bit more of a serious topic, but nonetheless, I do believe that this is something that has been on my mind for a while, and this is going to be one of the first things that truly got me into self development in the first place, because I recognize it to be a flaw, and I recognize that it's not fun feeling guilty, man. It's not fun feeling guilty, so therefore you go ahead and change. But like I said, if you guys have any last second comments, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and end it off here in about 7 minutes. So make sure to let me know. But ultimately, hopefully, I've given you enough information for you to go ahead and make a decision based off of your own observations, right? Um, these are things that everybody's gonna have to deal with, right? But how you go about dealing with it says a lot more about your character. If you're a person who's able to control yourself, it's gonna say a lot about your character. If you're a person that always folds under temptation, under pressure, under desire, under lust, then you're gonna be exactly that, a person that is weak. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that straight up, right? I'm gonna say that straight up. This path that I've chosen is not for the weak. It's not. It's not for the weak, but nonetheless, it was my calling, man. It was my calling, and that's ultimately what I wanted to. Ultimately, what I wanted to do was be a person who's went through it, right? Still continues to battle through it, and also has made progress, right? Has made progress. I want to be I want to be someone that you can look at and say that is attainable, right? Um, back before I even was a conqueror of these things. Um, I was too a person that was convinced that this is something that is you can't not do this. You cannot be a victim of this. I was so conditioned, also societally conditioned to believe that these things were natural, that these things were okay, right? And that's what society tells you. Like I said, society doesn't have your best interest in mind. Society is going to try to get you to fold in every single instant that you possibly can. And out here, we're gonna give you the opposite message, man. I'm gonna give you the opposite message. I'm gonna give you the message that I wish my younger self would have taken at a younger age, right? Um, but yeah, like I said, I want to reiterate these few last points. Everybody's a victim of this. How you go about it is up to you. Everybody's gonna experience these things. How you go about it is up to you. If you choose to take the path of indulging within temptation, into pleasure, into desire, into lust, if you're a person that's gonna choose that path, like I said, hopefully you feel guilty, man, because quite frankly, you know what's better. You know what's better for you. You know the difference between right and wrong. So like I said, if you choose, go ahead and choose the route, man. Your ass is gonna feel guilty, man, just like everybody else that has ever made that decision, right? You should feel guilty for damn sure. One thing I read from a book of yours that I have is not to focus too much on the goal, but instead focus on the system you have and what you need to do in order to eventually reach that goal. Exactly right. I can try to give you an analogy that kind of goes hand in hand with that. The goal is not the system. So I'm gonna implement that for this, right? So let's just say you're trying to get over temptation, desire, lust, whatever input you want to add right there, right? The goal should not be to void yourself from these thoughts, void yourself from this way of being. Therefore you should analyze the system that you go about it with, which is going to be your observations, which is going to be your understanding of these things, right? Which is also going to be part of the guilt. The guilt aspect is going to be part of your system because you know damn well what you should do and what you shouldn't do, right? But with that being said, your goal, you shouldn't even be focused on a goal. Your goal should be better. Your goal should be to improve yourself. That's your goal, right? Your system, when it comes to dealing with temptation, lust, desire, pleasure, whatever it is, it should be trying to get better. It should be trying to get better. It should be trying to take any and every step that you possibly can, understanding that there's going to be trials and tribulations that you must go through. Understand there's going to be moments of weakness. There's going to be moments of being uncomfortable. There's going to be moments of setbacks. There's going to be moments of relapses. But at the same time, those are going to make you stronger when you choose to avoid these things. And that is ultimately going to be the system that's going to set you up for success when it comes to this. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't see enough people doing these things, but yeah, you're right. It's good to feel guilty because then you know you're aware and it's not okay. Then you are able to overcome it. You're exactly right. And like I said, most people, unfortunately, they just don't. They're either okay with it or they just don't know any better, right? You watching this, hopefully you know better, and now you know what's right and what's wrong, and hopefully you make a better decision based off of that. But pretty much that's all I have to say for today's episode. This was episode 137 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about desire and temptation, and definitely probably one of my favorite discussions that I've had in a little minute now, for sure. But with that being said, if you're going through it, man, you'll get through it, and it's okay to struggle. It's okay. That's something I want to mention as well, right? If you're a person that's truly going through this struggle within your life, I truly wish you the best because, quite frankly, that's what I would have wished myself. And if you're making any progress at all when it comes to facing your temptation, desire, lust, pleasure, whatever it is, self pleasure, whatever it is, right? Um, just know that you're probably doing better than most people, right? I'm just gonna be honest with you. Just know you're doing better than most people, and continue to do what you need to do. That's pretty much what it's come down to. So I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto, fellas out here, man. We don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outworking these motherfuckers because you know that I am. So it's as simple as that. Like I said, whether you're watching this or watching this live, I want you to go ahead and leave a comments. Yeah, but other than that, you guys have a good rest of your nights, and stay tuned in for the next podcast on Thursday. It definitely should be a good one. Hopefully, I'll be having some more people on here very, very soon. But if I could leave you guys off with one piece of wisdom when it comes to analyzing all of this is, if you remove anything from your life, if you consciously remove anything from your life, make sure you consciously replace it, because an idle mind is the devil's playground. That's all I have to say for y'all. Y'all have a good night, and like I said, stay tuned for the next podcast on Thursday. Think before you act. It will spare you much grief. Yes, indeed, exactly right. Appreciate you for stopping by. Y'all have a good night, and like I said, stay tuned in for the next podcast on Thursday.